in terms of how blockchain is perceived, there's a lot of hype. The definition has expanded a lot. So when I first got into the space, blockchain was basically just Bitcoin was the definition, and then people have kind of expanded it to public and private blockchains and blockchains that have various guarantees or various levels of guarantees. And so now the definition is so broad that it actually includes like many types of databases that might have predated blockchain. So I would say if you take all the hype away, what's left is that it's a technology that enables trustless or basically ledgers or stateful systems of databases that don't have a specific operator, right? So it's kind of this idea that you can have a ledger without necessarily having one particular entity that operates that ledger. And for a lot of use cases people are proposing, there might be better or more efficient options than that. So for instance, people are talking about trade finance and using blockchain for trade finance, and then oftentimes there is actually a government that is regulating trade in a certain region, and they could very well just run that database themselves, and there isn't like a strong argument for why it needs to be distributed blockchain. And so that's on one side, but then on the other side you do see some real use cases. So one of the ones that we think is very interesting is the idea of having a digital asset that's sort of hosted on a blockchain. And the reason that's interesting is because then you don't have a counterparty that regulates access to that ledger and might charge you a fee and try to maximize their profit from accessing that ledger. And you can almost treat it like a commodity. So you can treat it like an asset just sort of exists out there. And that makes it very attractive to create liquidity with that asset, because you can move it cheaply, and again, nobody's charging you through the nose. Like a lot of the banks that control these large correspondent banking ledgers that have reach into lots of different corridors, they're charging quite a large markup for people making transactions across those ledgers. So we think digital assets is a great use case for blockchain, but we definitely share the skepticism that a lot of the use cases people have proposed might not be such a great use case for the diversity of how the different countries work and how the different payment corridors work, including from a compliance perspective, but also from operational, legal perspective, even technical perspective. One thing that we've noticed is that the best parties, or the parties that are in the best position to know the local regulator, know the local rules, are the banks, are the local players. And so I think that is exactly why we've taken this approach of working with incumbents as opposed to trying to build our own sort of global presence and trying to get licensing in different jurisdictions and so on. If you're just selling the technology and you're making the technology have all the tools that you need to comply with different sets of regulation, then you're giving your customer the tools to maybe even use a lot of the processes that they're already used to, so they don't have to convince their regulator about this crazy new thing that they're going to do, but rather they can say, well, this works exactly how what we've been doing before. It's just more efficient, and it's faster, whatever the case may be. And so that's how we're approaching this. We're very much looking to be in a supporting role for our local customers trying to convince the regulator. So we might intervene, we might talk to the regulator to kind of inform them, to educate them about the technology, but ultimately it's up to the institution to have that relationship and take that over the finish line.